I can't believe I'm saying this, but in the past 5 years, I've been able to build a business from zero to $150 million in revenue. I bootstrapped our way from zero to more than $50 million in revenue in less than 3 years. And that's without a single cent of investor money to that point. But I made way too many mistakes along the way. And if I were restarting my e-commerce business from complete scratch today and wanted to build it back up to 9 figures again in the next 4 years with a fraction of the mistakes, here's how I do it. I made a list. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm probably going to choose a product. How I come across that product, there's a million different ways, but whether something's presented to me or I find something that I think's amazing, that there's a process in that all by itself. But I'm assuming that we probably have an idea for a product. So we're going to choose our product, but we're not just going to go hard and pump this out to the market. We need to make sure that what we assume is true. And we're assuming that we can sell this product online, ideally at a profit, for a very long time. So the first thing, we choose our product. Next, we need to see if there's product market fit. A lot of times, and I'll be the first to admit it, I'll make an assumption and my assumption's wrong. I am not always right. I am not Superman. Half of my ideas are terrible. So I like to do a product market fit test. How do I do this? I generally do it with Facebook or Meta, whatever you want to call it. A great way to do this is to make a list of the potential avatars that you think would buy the product and the problem and the pain point that it solves, and testing creative with this avatar called out, with the pain point called out. And in this product market fit, we're going to do what's called a dry test, or this is what I would do. So a dry test is essentially a landing page where you have the product, you have all of the landing page elements. I have another video called the $100 million landing page template, which I'll link below if you want to see it. But basically, we're going to make a landing page. We're going to send people to it from Facebook, and we're going to see if they buy. You have some options when you do this dry test. You can either already have some samples of the product to ship if you've already got them. Otherwise, you can just, for the test, you can use a product that's already on the market and just ship it by Amazon. Or the third option is you can refund the money and apologize that it's out of stock, and that they'll be the first ones to be notified when it comes back in. Super easy. You can do this either on Shopify, or you can use like a landing page tool with an integration to Stripe. Lots of different ways you can do it. So I'm not going to go into that side of it, but do the dry test. So the dry test is going to give us an idea of how easy it is to sell to these consumers potentially, and rough idea on what it's going to cost. Obviously, we haven't done any optimizing on any of the creative at this point. We are just trying to see, if we put this out there, are people going to buy it? Okay, so we got the dry test out of the way. Yay, it worked. We're winning. We're getting excited about this. But before we really go too buck wild, we need to make sure that we have chosen an audience and a product that can support getting to the goal of $100 million a year in revenue, or $100 million in revenue. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the TAM. A TAM is the total addressable market. That is all of the people in the whole entire world who could be potential users of your product. A lot of people use the word TAM kind of incorrectly, where they'll talk about the TAM in the USA. A TAM is your total addressable market. That includes everybody. Your SAM would be your serviceable addressable market, which could potentially be a segment which, like the USA. So we're going to look at the TAM, and then ideally for me, I'm probably going to launch this product when I do it in the USA or USA and Canada. So I would slice my TAM down to that SAM, total addressable market, down to the serviceable addressable market, to identify how many people there are that could buy the product, how big the industry already is. So there's a number of different sources out there where you can buy this data. There's also some data as a service operators out there that can help you get this data, but you want to make sure that there's enough people and the market's large enough to support what you're doing. The next thing that I want to know, once I know that there is an audience for what I've got, is or that can support my financial goals, is where do consumers buy this product? For me, I'm probably doing consumables because that's what I have experience in, and I want to lever what I already know. So since I'm doing consumables, I'm hoping that a considerable number of these people buy in retail. Why do I hope that? Because in the grand scheme of things, I would eventually like to have my products sold in other channels where I'm not always having to try to get a measurable CPA or cost per acquisition that's low enough to support an e-commerce business that's just e-com. There's being able to be in retail is a huge unlock for direct consumer brands that are at a point where they can afford to play those games. But anyways, so where do consumers buy? Again, more research that needs to be done here. You want to know what percentage of these people buy this product in the different places. And then we want to determine where to play, because if you're going to be like a prestige brand or an expensive brand, you're probably not going to want to sell on discount sites. You're not going to want to be in dollar stores. So understanding where you want to play, how we want to position this product so that when it's time to either be sold in these premium locations, everything is kind of good to go. We want to make sure that we understand the market. We want to plot out all the competitors on a graph and understand where their price point is, and make sure that we can get at least 70% gross margin, ideally, higher if you can. Usually if it gets lower, things get more difficult. And once we have a good understanding of that, we know who our competitors are now because we've plotted them out and their pricing on a chart, but we want to know, what are they doing to grow their business? We're not going to copy them or anything like that, but we want to see what is working and what's not working, what's worked in the past, what's working now, and just get a good grip on what the competitors are doing so we know where to start. And then before I really, really jump into a product, since I prefer consumables, obviously I like things that people can subscribe to. It's very easy to maximize your lifetime value, and you're not always having to make another sale to keep the cash flow going. So making sure if it's not a consumable, what are the adjacent products, or what are the high affinity products that we could sell to this customer in the future to maximize our lifetime value, so we're not just like a one sale and done product. So once I'm happy with all of this information, the first thing, we're still doing research here, but we want to design our packaging. And the reason why I want to do the packaging now is because if you eventually do go into retail, or you're listed on Amazon or whatever, doing a packaging change is a huge pain in the butt. You have multiple different packages out there. If you're using influencers to help grow the business, you're going to have different packaging if you have to make a change in the future. So I really like to nail the packaging ideally at the beginning, because I have made this mistake and realized how big of a pain in the butt it is. So design your packaging. So how do you know if your packaging is good or not? So there's this really awesome tool that I like. It's called IntelliV, and you can basically, they will show your package compared to other people's packaging, and you can ask a bunch of questions, and you can keep split testing until you win in all the categories that you think are relevant. So you can make some small little tweaks here. Maybe it's like your benefits, maybe it's the colors, maybe it's the packaging type. But they're relatively inexpensive to run these tests. And it could take you like 100 of them to really nail the packaging. But the goal here is to take like the top 2 or 3 products that are similar on Amazon and make sure that you beat them. Don't settle for packaging that performs worse, because you need to catch the people's eye on Amazon. But furthermore, it's very important that when you do have it finalized, that you go down. If your plan is to eventually be in retail, go down to the locations and take pictures of what the product facing looks like. And I want you to see, does your product stand out when it's on the shelf? Like, if somebody's walking down the aisle, is it just going to blend in with everything else? So making sure that once you've got it all dialed in, that you bring it down and you evaluate it against its competitors and make sure that it stands out. Okay, so we've got our product. Let's just use, apparently it's DeWalt nails today. We got our product, it's ready to go. That's heavy. So what's next? We want to continue to build out our Shopify store. So we're going to take that dry test that we used before, and we are going to update it with our new packaging. If we found any particular benefits or pain points stand out, we're going to make sure that we implement those on there. And we are going to build out our basic Klaviyo and or send lane, but our email flows for like post-purchase, abandoned cart. Set the same thing up for your SMS, whether you use Attentive or Klaviyo or SendLane, just so we have some baseline communications to continue the sales once we're moving. From there, once the websites roll on, I like to start heavily jumping into the creative side. So I'm a big fan of the 5 Levels of Consumer Awareness by Eugene Schwartz, and my take on media buying is generally, I want to build a machine that essentially takes consumers through the entire consumer journey with creative diversity, which means like creative that's in each of the 5 categories. I like to make sure that we also have media diversity, so we're not just all videos or not all images. We cover the different types of content, so that regardless how somebody likes to consume media, we're going to have an opportunity to be in front of them. So I like to build out this engine, and that basically includes having the right content at the right sections and then optimizing the pieces that are not performing the best. So that's going to be the engine behind majority of the growth in the beginning, is really nailing Facebook ads. So I'm jumping in feet first on the creative. Once I've got that engine built out and my CPAs, my cost per acquisition, seem fairly healthy, I am going to start scaling Facebook. And what that looks like is continuing to produce more and more creative, both videos as well as statics, as well as GIFs, and using these creatives to make sure that our costs stay healthy. Once that's all dialed in, I'm going to add Google ads and Bing ads into the mix, primarily to capture demand that other people are generating. So things like, if it's back to nail gun nails, like buy nail guns online, basically buy nails for my nail gun online, like keywords like that, where I can capture the demand that other people have already created. And the way you're going to win at that is, there's an old saying in direct response. It's, he who can pay the most for a customer wins. Basically, whoever generates the most revenue from the single point of sale is able to spend the most to acquire customers. So if we're just selling a single pack of nail guns or nails, we're probably not going to have a very high AOV. So it's going to be difficult to be profitable. So the next element that I'm adding here is basically optimizing the offer and conversion rate optimization on the landing page or landing pages to make sure that people have the information they need in order to make a purchase. But since we're probably selling a product that's fairly inexpensive, since it's consumable, we want to do things to incentivize people to spend more money. This could be incentivizing volume discounts. This could be one-click upsell bundles. This could be a number of different things. But the goal at this stage, before we really scale, is making sure that the page converts super well and that its average order value or the revenue per session is as high as we can possibly squeeze it. So that when we throw money at this offer, if the CPAs go up, which they will, we aren't going to be out of business. All right. So those are kind of the things that I'm going to do until I get to like the 5 million a year in revenue mark, which probably shouldn't take too long if I've done this properly. But once I get to 5 million, and this number is kind of arbitrary, but I like the 5 million-ish mark, is I'm going to add third-party sales platforms into the mix. So my D2C's humming. We've got our Facebook, we've got our Google, we've got our Bing ads, all selling our product. Needless to say, we also have organic posts going out daily. Certain categories are going to do better with organic than not, but I'm not going to jump into how to do that. Everybody's familiar with social media to some extent. We're going to put the product on Amazon. And people are like, well, isn't that going to cannibalize your D2C results? And the answer is yes, probably a little bit. But there's 20 to 30% of people who refuse to purchase anything unless it's on Amazon. And sometimes they'll use Amazon just to look at reviews and to make sure that your product's real. So I'm going to get the product on Amazon. Then I'm going to hire an agency who specializes in optimizing my Amazon results, and we'll do the PPC. So right now, I use a good friend of mine's agency. It's called Tesmo, and they run all the PPC. They optimize for search. They do the whole kit and caboodle. So for me, it's like if I can pay somebody to take a huge chunk of the business off my books and run it, I'm going to do it. And they're great. So going to plug that in. It's going to do two things. We're going to capture the demand that's already there on that side. And since we've already optimized our packaging for Amazon with IntelliV, it should perform well out the gates. One thing, depending on how much resources I have, I would consider making an Amazon only SKU that was a different count than my other products, only because at some point, knowing what I know now, we're eventually going to go into retail. And if somebody in retail sells the product for a different price point than what we're selling it on Amazon, we could lose the buy box. So one small consideration, if you have the resources and want to do a different package size, I would highly recommend it. Or you can make a different package size when you go into retail, either way. So this is kind of the core structure that I would probably maintain up until $20 million. A lot of people like to go and jump into finding all these other new tactics to run, but everything you do requires human capital, requires people to run it. And I would rather have my team focused on creating amazing creative that converts and optimizing our site to perform better than I would chasing a bunch of side quests that probably aren't really going to move the dial. So it's the ancient proverb of like chase two rabbits, catch none. So from here, from $5 to $20 million in revenue, I am focused on Facebook. I'm focused on Google, and I'm just going to say like things like email, SMS, organic search, and organic SEO. Those things, they're just kind of going to happen in the background. They're table stakes. Everybody should be doing that stuff anyways. Once we're at $20 million, this is where things get a bit interesting, and you might have to start building some new skills. This is where I would probably look at adding in specialty retail. You might want to do it a little bit earlier or later. It just depends how many resources you have, how much profit you have on this 20 million in revenue. Can you afford bodies? But this is where we want to start getting into specialty retail. And the reason why I would prefer going into specialty retail over big box right away is because the stakes are very high. If you screw up in big box, it can be catastrophic for your business. Like if you fail to deliver, or you deliver an order for a very large retailer, a couple $1 million, and it's late, there's a possibility they cancel that whole entire order, and you're stuck with a multi-million-dollar PO that has completely devastated your cash flow and could bankrupt you. It could be insolvent. So I like to start with specialty retail, and then what I want to do is I want to get it in the door. I want to optimize for velocity, unit velocity. So making sure that I support these specialty retailers and make sure that we're actually moving units. And once we figure out how to move units in store, how do we maximize that output? And that's super important, because we are going to take that and use these same strategies when we eventually move into bigger retail. So yeah, I'm probably going to ride that out until around $40 million in revenue. There's going to be a big focus still on D2C, big focus on Amazon, and the focus on the smaller retailers is really going to be just getting the systems dialed in so that we can scale the smaller retailers, and we can take some of these learnings to big box. Things like limited time price reductions, or potentially doing geofencing the location and running ads to create awareness that it's there. Stuff like that. So we're going to run this, like I said, till 40 million. At 40 million, we are going to now start looking at big box retail. Like, we know, we've already done the research earlier. We know what percentage of people buy in retail. We know which stores that we're going after. So we're going to now start building a retail team and creating a really solid set of salespeople that are going to be able to help get our products in these doors. And this, there's a very good possibility you're going to pay somebody decent money for this role, because you're looking for somebody who not only knows how to sell, but also has relationships in the types of stores where you want placement. Everything in life is about relationships, and it might not get you on the shelf, but it might get you a phone call with the buyer for consideration. So we're going to build this team. We're going to continue to optimize for sell-through in the specialty retail. So continue dialing that in, and so that when we actually start getting listed in big box, we're ready to go. I'm probably going to start adding in some traditional media like TV or a little bit of out of home, specifically around the locations where we're in retail. So I feel like out of home has the most value when you have the infrastructure built up in a region to support those stores. Like, if you out of home, I don't think is super valuable if you're just doing direct to consumer. But if you're listed in, say, a Publix, and there's a big billboard outside the Publix talking about your brand, the person walks into Publix and they see it, they're like, oh, I just saw this outside. You want to tie that together with either it could be radio, it could be TV, it could be whatever other touch points are. But the value in those, in my opinion, comes once you have the retail infrastructure and the Amazon and the D2C, so that you're getting, what do they say, seven touch points before somebody actually considers your product. And there's value in the touch points being diverse. They feel like they're more trustworthy when they're coming from different places. It's almost like 7 recommendations from different people is better than 7 recommendations from the same person. All right, so we're in big box now. We're selling. There's going to be some nuances that are different than small retail, but we want to apply all of our marketing strategies that we learned there, and we want to continue dialing those in for like maximum unit velocity. Excuse me. And at this point, we're probably going to start creeping up to the $50 million mark. $50 million mark, really, excuse me. The goal here, if all your other systems are working properly, is we really want to focus on rolling out to all of our top retail locations that we identified when we did our where to play exercise at the very beginning. Again, we're going to roll out, we want to get to every store, and then we want to maximize our marketing systems on every store. Like, to give you an idea, like, you're going to want to have people feet on the street. You want people going into the stores, making sure that the product is merchandised properly, that it's faced properly, that it's not getting knocked over. If there's like any issues with your packaging where it's not sitting proper, you want to have people going in and verifying that things are working. Really, at this point, your growth in retail are going to come from 2 things: increased unit velocity, which means like more sales per week. And if you can get those numbers high once you're in all the locations you want to be in, then you can look at adding additional SKUs. So product development, a very easy way to make considerably more sales is to release a new SKU. And if you have 10,000 retail locations that are all willing to accept it when you launch, you've now increased your footprint in the store. So you have a larger segment of visibility. But ideally that also increases your overall sales because you have a new product. And then you basically have to repeat all of your marketing systems on the new product to try to drive it forward as well. And that's where the really big scale exists in retail is getting secondary and third SKUs in after you've gotten the velocity on the existing units. And then, a lot of times that alone will probably get you over $100 million in revenue. But if it's not, and you've done all of these things and you've done them all well, the next step is really like, it's more markets. So if you're in Canada and the US, what other market will support your product? The lowest hanging fruit is probably the UK. They have a considerable amount of people, but picking another market and doing all of the same things that you've done leading up to this point that I just talked about, these are the things that you're just going to go and repeat in the next market. And the goal here, at least in my head, is to have a playbook that you can use over and over and over again. This playbook should help you find your product, make sure you have a product market fit, make sure that the addressable market is large enough to support your goals, and then you just work the system. Earlier in this video, I mentioned a $100 million landing page template. This is the template that I generally use whenever I launch or test products. It's very easy to use. You can build it in just about any landing page builder. You can see the video right now. It's on the screen. If you want to check it out, I highly recommend checking it out. It is my top video on this channel, and I've had so much positive feedback around it. I think you're going to love it. Make sure you click it.